Donkey Kong, Danky Kang, Dorky Korg. These are the names given to the hairiest, scrunchiest ape in the jungle, except that last one. In 1981, Nintendo had failed to capture arcades with its space shooter Radar Scope. Gaming historians may argue that Radar Scope is better than you remember, but this contentious reappraisal presumes that we remember it at all. Confronted with problems most moneyed, Nintendo recycled the unused and unpurchased radarscopic hardware to cut costs where costs needed cutting. Shigeru Miyamoto drew inspiration from Beauty and the Beast, as well as inspiration from King Kong. Miyamoto was tasked with giving birth to a grown man, a grown woman, and an ape. If 1980 arcades belonged to Pac-Man, then 1981 arcades still belonged to Pac-Man, but the landlord allowed Donkey Kong to live in the basement off the books. Children of all ages plunked their quarters into the towering arcade cabinet, seeking victory, seeking answers at the top of a vermilion skyscraper that would become inexplicably fuchsia when ported to the Famicom or Nintendo Entertainment System. I remember playing Donkey Kong as a child, but it was never something I played often. By the time I was playing video games, proper side-scrollers had been born. Verticality is for chumps. Horizontal, now that's where it's at. I do remember playing Donkey Kong Country significantly more and with greater, more jubilant emotions. This shit was bananas. The introduction told us everything our toddler brains needed to know. This was not your daddy's Donkey Kong. Many years later, in the decadentinously pleasing year of 2010, Nintendo released Donkey Kong Country Returns. And this year, the worst year yet, Nintendo is re-releasing Donkey Kong Country Returns in high definition, or at least as high definition as Nintendo Switch can handle without collapsing in on itself. The news inspired me to play the Not Your Daddy's Donkey Kong game again, but then a thought struck my mind, like lightning traveling at the speed of time. Am I the daddy now? Certainly not in the literal and most tedious sense of the word daddy, as I have avoided parentage lo these 40-something years on this earth. I will be 43 in May. Get me something good. I am nobody's father, but now that I am in the common father age range, Donkey Kong Country both is and is not your daddy's Donkey Kong. It's still not your daddy's Donkey Kong if you are referring to the daddies of the early 80s. I was born in 1982, 1 year after the release of Jumpman's first bounding adventure, forever marking this game as not of my time. Yet, Donkey Kong Country is your daddy's Donkey Kong to a new generation who grew up playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, released in 2014. Our relationship with time can be adversarial or loving. Is time our mortal enemy or our hottest, nastiest lover? With this vague and unanswerable question in mind, I chose, of my own free will, to play a banana bunch of Donkey Kong video games. I sure hope nobody is expecting anything other than a shitpost here.
Wait a second. I know that monkey. His name is Donkey. I know that donkey. His name is Monkey.
What the?
All right. It's Saturday night. I have no date. A 2-liter bottle of Shasta and my all-rush mixtape. Let's rock.
Video game development history is a combination of documented sources and fantastical esoterica. According to flyers, cabinet art, and interviews, the story of Donkey Kong goeth thusly. Mario was a carpenter who was also simultaneously a circus animal trainer who did not treat his ape with much respect. The prequel Game & Watch Eye Strainer, Donkey Kong Circus, confirms this. Donkey Kong did not accept his life of captivity and escaped for pastures green. Were this the end of the story, we might cheer his escape, free-willian in nature. But Donkey Kong did not merely wish for freedom, he wished for revenge. Donkey Kong kidnapped Mario's girlfriend Pauline, originally called Lady, and held her atop this crude representation of a building. When game enthusiasts ask, who was the villain of Donkey Kong, they present multiple theories. At face value, Donkey Kong is the villain. With greater context, Mario is the villain. However, it may be more honest, more ethically truthful, to assert that both Mario and Donkey Kong are abusive people and that the only innocent in this game is Pauline. Donkey Kong deserves his freedom, absolutely, and does not deserve to be abused. But how is this related to Pauline? Why must Pauline suffer for the crimes of someone else? Donkey Kong is hurting Pauline to indirectly hurt Mario. While Mario treated Donkey Kong like an animal, Donkey Kong treated Pauline like less than that, an inanimate object, a weapon to be used against his actual antagonist. Mario is no working-class hero, more of a working-class villain, and Donkey Kong is an asshole. My journey through Donkey Kong began with this arcade version, bounding over barrels, smashing with my sledgehammer, and avoiding oil fires that had been animated to living creatures with eyeballs via dark, satanic magic. After several Carpenter flattening failures, I led Mario to the top of the Hellfire Hate building. Love conquered all, but only for a fleeting moment. In the next stage, Mario must remove pieces of the construction, collapsing it to finally crushionate Donkey Kong. I cannot help but call this plan into question. If the goal is to rescue Pauline, annihilating the structure endangers her as much as Donkey Kong, perhaps even more than Donkey Kong due to the giant ape's powerful frame and Pauline's relative human flimsiness. Donkey Kong kidnapped Pauline to hurt Mario, and now Mario is ignoring the safety of Pauline to hurt Donkey Kong. Pauline is trapped in the middle of a tug-of-war in which she is not the prize, but the rope. By the end of the second stage, Pauline certainly knows that this is not about her at all. It's about revenge. In King Kong, the titular creature sets down his prey after realizing that falling would endanger her. I hereby declare that King Kong is more compassionate, more human than Mario and Donkey Kong combined. Although I am no king of Kong, playing through the first two stages over and over felt redundant and not particularly challenging with the save state hotkey right there. To shake things up, I played a ROM hack of Donkey Kong called Donkey Kong Randomizer that zonked out each stage. After that, I played a ROM hack called Pac-Man vs. Donkey Kong, in which the two giants of early 80s arcade cabinets smooshed into one. Reaching the top of the building did not rescue Pauline, because she and/or Donkey Kong would not allow me to continue without eating all the pellets. How this is relevant to rescuing her, I have no idea. My experience not fully Konged out, I played Crazy Kong, a semi-official Donkey Kong game. Crazy Kong features a putrid, sickly green color palette, a new level, and new sound effects. These sound effects echo and ring in my ears like a long-forgotten whisper or a song that the radio will not stop playing, no matter how many threatening letters I write. Daddy does not like this. Crazy Kong ends its stages differently. When Mario reaches the top, the heart materializes, but Mario disappears. Mario becomes the heart. The second stage in Crazy Kong features a conveyor belt and what appears to be banana cream pies. I mistakenly assumed that these pies were pick-upable items and died. Unsatisfied with this almost Donkey Kong, I decided to play a more overt, unlicensed ripoff that is simultaneously entirely its own game. Congo Bongo. Published by Sega, the future mother of Crazy Taxi, Congo Bongo is the tale of a man on safari who is set aflame by Bongo, a giant ape. If Safari Man finishes all 4 stages, he can do the same to Bongo. Donkey Kong and Congo Bongo have similar premises. A big monkey is throwing things from a higher vantage point, and the human must climb to win. But the real similarity is revenge. More Donkey Kong. I played the NES port of Donkey Kong next. The love had left Mario's heart by the era of Famicom. Upon reaching Pauline, no heart emerges. There is only hate, only revenge. The second stage this time around is a collection of elevators and trampolines before the dangerous building implosion stage. Only after dropping Donkey Kong on his skull does the heart appear. Mario does not love Pauline. He loves hate. Unsatisfied with this heroic interpretation of the most un-Christ-like Carpenter, I played a ROM hack of Donkey Kong called Donkey Kong Wario, in which Mario is replaced with the jagged, mustachioed anti-hero. The actual gameplay does not change, only the aesthetics, but Donkey Kong Wario feels more honest, more forthright, for Wario is decidedly not in it for the love of Pauline. He's in it for the money. Everyone knows that he is really in love with Waluigi. Are there no more heroes left in Donkey Kong Land? Yes, there is one. Donkey Kong Jr., the son of Donkey Kong, diapered and pooped to maximum, must rescue Donkey Kong from the clutches of the dastardly Mario Q Jumpman. The original Donkey Kong, is also quite literally Donkey Kong Jr.'s daddy's Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong Jr. the game is not his daddy's Donkey Kong. It's his Donkey Kong. I hope this makes sense. Donkey Kong Jr. firmly establishes Mario as a monstrous cretin, inhuman, unloved, unlovable, and worthy of execution, an obvious fact ignored for all remaining Nintendo games. Nintendo decided that a villainous human was still more marketable than a heroic orangutan. In Donkey Kong 3, some stupid piece of shit named Stanley sprays Donkey Kong up the butt, because Donkey Kong 3 sucks. Donkey Kong 3 allows me to speedrun through each stage, but not as a display of my gaming skills. No, Donkey Kong 3 is straightforwardly broken. A guileless game loser could pass through the first few stages of Donkey Kong 3 with nothing but a 1-ounce bag of Doritos for sustenance. Somehow, once again, Donkey Kong is portrayed as a nuisance to be caged, sprayed, and stunk up real bad. No wonder Pauline ditched Mario, Wario, and all other Arios to become the mayor of New Donk City. Pauline had a glow-up, whereas Mario simply changed professions from carpenter to plumber. Mayor Pauline is the big winner. Living well is the best revenge. In 1994, something arrived in my mailbox that would change my life forever. Or maybe it actually was not that big of a deal, but let's just have a little fun with drama here. What arrived was a VHS called Donkey Kong Country Exposed, included in our mail due to the subscription to Nintendo Power. The video was ultra-blasted with generic, grocery store brand rock music, laser-focused pandering, and hosted by this corporate-tested dweebazoid. The fake news reporter looks and acts like a hip camp counselor from Salute Your Shorts, but much more embarrassing. Part documentary, part mockumentary, all marketing. Nintendo desperately wanted to be seen as cool in the way that Sega was cool. Sega had Sonic the Hedgehog, Blue Streak speeding by, Too Fast for the Naked Eye, you know him. Nintendo lacked that edge. Sega CD commercials had these black and white bold letter crashes ripped from the font database of CNC Music Factory. Like a little brother pretending to be tough to his older sister, Nintendo mimicked this behavior and aesthetic with their Donkey Kong Country VHS. Oh look, a backwards hat in 1994. Wow dude, you are so gangsta. Check out this 90s MTV Cool Kid Real World filter. There is nothing more uncool than trying to be cool. I can say all of this with detachment in 2025, but this absolutely worked on me back then. Am I just too much of a daddy to be taken in by this anymore? I know now that I am not immune to propaganda. Will that affect my enjoyment of Donkey Kong Country in this, our present year? Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong Country is actually the grandson of the original, who is now going by his nickname Cranky. For a time, I mistakenly assumed that DK in Donkey Kong Country was Donkey Kong Jr., now out of diapers. But Jr. is apparently the son of Cranky and the father of the new Donkey Kong. I hope that is less confusing for you than it was for me. After guiding Donkey Kong through the torrential rains of his homeland, Cranky Kong had sage words of wisdom about why I am not good enough. Is Cranky Kong negging me? As the warm waters surrounded Donkey Kong, amniotic and healing, I began to wonder, am I Cranky Kong now? Am I daddy or am I cranky? How old must I be before I begin to feel old? The passage of time, the gap in space between Christmas of 1994 and New Year's 2025 resembles an eternity, a void of time. The adult milestones of my life have already been either reached or won't be reached, ever. I graduated from college a million years ago. I was married once, did that milestone. I don't want children, so no milestone to be had there. And since I'm an elder millennial in the 21st century economy, there is no forthcoming home ownership milestone. I am having a deliciously good time with my life lately, but is there something specific, something meaningful to look forward to? Because if there is not, then the only milestone left is the grave. But enough about that.
Let's play a video game.
I love Donkey Kong Country. Tremendous pickup and playability combined with variety-blasted stage change-ups. The minecart stages are my favorites, a perfect taste-tested cosmic gumbo of excitement and difficulty. Here, Donkey Kong and Diddy dodge hazards in some Indiana Jones-inspired temple. Here, Donkey Kong allows the glow of the sunset to wash over him. Collecting bananas is the name of the game, but that leads to this question. How many bananas does Donkey Kong need? The story of Donkey Kong Country is that DK's stash of bananas has been stolen by the evil King K. Rool, a King Koopa facsimile ripped straight from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Is Donkey Kong feeding his people with these bananas? There is no indication of this. He's not king like King K. Rool. Looks like Donkey Kong is a hoarder and has drained the resources of the island. Is King K. Rool only trying to feed his people? Because it looks like the king has an enormous amount of reptilian mouths to feed, whereas Donkey Kong only feeds himself and possibly Diddy. Furthermore, what good is this gigantic stock of bananas anyway? Bananas go bad after a few days or a week. By this metric, Donkey Kong must have collected these bananas a day or two before the events of the game. Is this really a tragedy? Because he can simply repeat the process. Based on how quickly bananas go rotten, Donkey Kong must do this all the time anyway. Also, if Donkey Kong is not sharing these bananas, and they all go rotten so quickly, then the extravagant waste is absolutely vulgar. Shame on you, Donkey Kong, and put on some pants. Donkey Kong Country contains a plethora of references to earlier 8-bit Donkey Kong games. Here, Donkey Kong must avoid the flaming oil drum seen in the first game. The clearest references are the fourth wall breaking lessons from Cranky Kong, waxing nostalgia about games of the past, and yelling at clouds for having advanced cloud graphics. Whenever I guided Donkey and Diddy to Cranky's cabin, I had to ask myself, do I sound like this? I don't feel old, but am I old? Am I the daddy now? Do I have any cranky complaints about Donkey Kong Country? Well, yes. The bosses are among the worst and most uninspired non-events ever presented on the Super Nintendo. Boo. Boo! Repeating bosses, recycled backgrounds, and easy as banana cream pie. I swam through toxic waters for this? This? I love bosses, and these kind of suck. The final boss is similarly boring, but giving credit where it's due, the midpoint of the battle in which fraudulent game credits scroll across the screen was a brilliant addition. Thank you, Rare. I forgive you for your self-humiliating, cringe marketing. I promise to play Star Fox Adventures at some point. But do I have any cranky complaints about modern games in general? So, do I? Sure, I guess. I detailed many of them in a previous video on Kill the Justice League, but these complaints were largely about business practices and the industry, not the games themselves. Video games can still be what they were in the 80s and 90s. New options exist, but not as replacements. Everything is allowed, every style. Progress is not bad. Regression is bad. Reactionary movements are bad. I will not be a video game reactionary, demanding a return to a time that did not truly exist. Have you seen these amazing new games? The seeds of video games were planted in the 1950s and 1960s. The garden bloomed in the 1980s and 1990s. But we did not lose ourselves in Civilization 6 until 2016. We did not experience Disco Elysium until 2019. And we did not have Cultic until 2022, even though it is designed around the aesthetics of decades past. Video games can look like anything. Be anything. Maybe I am daddy now, but I am not cranky, spitefully demanding revenge against a world that changed around him. Daddy wants new video games. Daddy is looking forward to the future. The best revenge is living well. Hi everyone. If you want to support what I do, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment under this video. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/renegadecut. I'll see you soon.